Would you like to find some ways to cut down on your Thanksgiving dinner calories? Well, there are some ways that could really help you out if you're trying to lose all that Thanksgiving weight. With one holiday down and one to go, 'tis the season for overeating. And it can happen. As we're about to show you, there are ways you can cut back, you can reduce your Thanksgiving dinner calories. Take a look.
There are there are lots of healthy ways to bring down the Thanksgiving calorie count while still enjoying your feast, says nutritionist Chelsea Amer.
When you're making cranberry sauce, a lot of cranberry sauce recipes have up to 50 grams of added sugar. You can cut the sugar in half and actually add more flavor by adding in orange juice and orange zest to it on top, and even some cinnamon. A lot of sweet potato casseroles have added sugar in them. Instead, you can enhance the natural sweetness of sweet potatoes by adding in mashed banana.
For most people, Thanksgiving is all about being with family at home. But for others, it's not about making a turkey, it's about making a reservation. Thanksgiving dinner out can be expensive. The meal at the Grand Brasserie in New York City will set you back $125 per person. But most of us will be eating at home. And if you have any questions, you can always call the Butterball Turkey Hotline. If your turkey is still frozen, the only option now is to thaw it inside a water bath, 30 minutes per pound.
So you keep the turkey in its packaging, you put it in a cool water bath, and then every 30 minutes you're going to want to rotate that turkey and change out the water so that it'll rapidly get it from being a block of ice to the temperature of the water.
There you have it. Now enjoy.
And if you're gonna be cooking a if you're gonna be cooking a turkey for Christmas, which I recommend you do. If you remember last week, we showed you some ways of how to deep fry a turkey from Alton Brown. Look at some videos of the wrong ways to deep fry a turkey. But I want to show you a great way to make a juicy turkey. And I think you're really going to like this one. Take a look at this.
Dan here with a holiday announcement. If I find you serving a dry turkey, I'm taking you to jail.
This is a sandwich. So my wife came home with this.
Officer Dan here with a holiday announcement. If I find you serving a dry turkey, I'm taking you to jail. I'm going to show you how to serve a juicy turkey every time. Step 1, make sure you have enough water to submerge your butterball. Now we know how much water we need. We're going to add about 4 cups to a pot. You need 1 cup of salt. And then you need half a bottle of Dan-O's Original. That's all you need right there. Salt and Dan-O's. Don't waste your money on all the other ingredients. Now simply add this to the rest of your water. You want your brine to be cold, so we add some ice. So now simply remove the gobble box, whatever else is in here. What is this? It's a bonus, baby. Now simply drop into your brine and let it sit overnight. Let me place this in the fridge. That is how you guarantee yourself a juicy turkey. If you make a dry turkey, I promise you, I'll be watching and I will take you to jail. And remember, yum yum, get you some. Officer Dan here.
You cook a dry turkey, you're in trouble. What? I mean, things like combo. Can't serve a dry turkey. The kids will throw it on you. And Dan-O's is offering up some ways to cook a turkey. So let's take a look at some recipes that he actually used. Basically a turkey brine. Let's look at this one.
Hopefully that juice, ooh, the juice is loose. All right, y'all, we got a 19-pound Amish turkey, and we're gonna cook it in a brown bag and make it super juicy and fall off the bone. Let's get to it. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna rinse it off. I'm just kidding. Never rinse off your turkey. If they wanted you to rinse your turkey off, they would tell you on the directions. Instead, they say to cook it thoroughly. So let's get the innards out of our turkey. Oh, there it is. There's our little bag of goodies. You can do what you want with them. Me, I throw them in the trash. I really don't like this, so I'm gonna cut some of this off. So now we got our turkey spine side up, and we're gonna season this side, and then we're gonna turn it over. Next step, we're gonna melt 1 stick of butter. Grab your Dano's Original, that's the green top, and mix that in. Now we're gonna baste our turkey with some of this butter and Dano's. We rub it in. And look how the butter solidifies on the turkey as it gets cold. Exactly what we wanted to do. And we give it one more light sprinkling of Dano's. Now we flip it over and baste the other side. We're gonna get some in the neck hole, and we're gonna get some in this hole. Get it all basted up. It's time for the big bottle. We're gonna hit it with a pop and give it a nice coating on top. Now we're gonna fill it up. Some onion, some celery, and some carrots. Time to oil the bag. We're gonna oil it all over and saturate it in the oil. Get the other side. We gotta get the inside too. It's kind of messy. Top 5, Dano's, yum yum, get you some. Get the bag totally saturated. Alright, so you can see that we got this bag heavily coated in the oil and Dano's. And I even got it all over myself, but it's okay, because I like Dano's. Yum yum, get you some. We're gonna get our turkey in, but we want to put the turkey in where the seam.
Basically, that's what it looks like after the cooks of the brown bag. So if you're thinking about doing some Thanksgiving ideas, it's a great one for you. I was at a event today at Grace Community Church where candidates came in and they spoke about the issues that need to be addressed. All of that for you when we return. Still ahead, the Menendez brothers. It's December 2nd, and now the new district attorney is coming in. Will the new evidence be put into play? Find out when we come back. Stay with us. There's probably not much to discuss about the Menendez case. It's just, I don't know what it is. So basically, if you watched the Today Show, then you might have seen an interview about the prosecutor that wants to compare the O.J. Simpson case to the Menendez brothers. But we ain't gonna play that for you. But in case, but we're gonna get you up to speed on this Menendez Monday. From now until the resentencing hearing, we're gonna walk you through all the very latest. According to CNN, this was a week before Thanksgiving. A judge of California has delayed the scheduled sentencing hearing for Lionel Eric Menendez at the brothers' first hearing since they were sentenced to life in prison for ruining their parents in 1989, and the latest step in their bid to regain freedom. The Superior Court Judge Michael Slegg sat at a Monday status hearing. The resentencing originally scheduled for December 11th. It would be pushed to December 30th. It said he rescheduled the hearing to give the new district attorney time to review the case, but the current district attorney was resoundingly voted out of office earlier this month and will be replaced by Nathan Hochman next week. So this week, Nathan Hochman is now the new district attorney. And by January 30th, we'll tell you the very latest. The judge imposed strict restrictions in the courtroom, saying no cameras allowed in the court. 16 seats in the court were offered to the public via lottery in the hours before the hearing, according to a news release from the Superior Court. The sisters of both victims testified in favor of resentencing the brothers Monday. In October, Gascon filed a motion to recommend a judge resentence his siblings, which could allow them to be released immediately. So this is where they are now, and this is where they are before. So here's my take on this. It's like, get him through it as quickly as possible, I mean, if they want to be resentenced, and that's fine, but, if this ever happens, don't wait until weeks ahead. I mean, we're a month away from the resentencing trial, but we'll know then. But there's no need to go farther ahead and say, well, let's just push back to January 30th, reasoning district attorney. Train him. Train him through. That way he'll know. Sorry, I was looking for some. But still, you have to understand from common perspective here, you know. I get that these people murder their parents, but it's patricide. It means to, you know, like we talked about that 60 Minutes story. If one person one state, the child kills the parents, and that person can be sentenced to life in jail, while the other person kills the parents in another state, then they will allow the evidence to be heard. But in California, they just won't simply copy off Texas. Reasoning behind this is because, you know, they don't want to copy and paste. So that's what you got to deal with when it comes to, you know, resentencing. Just, you know, looking at things from a global perspective. It's not often we talk about cell phone bans, but this next story could even take the cake. You know, every state would want to ban cell phones in schools to prevent distraction to the educational process and to cut down bullying. In Denver, Colorado, you're about to hear some students that say that they're upset about phones being banned in schools. But what did the students have to say? Take a look.
The reaction we got from students today about the new cell phone ban was quick and strong.
I disagree with that. I think it could be hazardous because if there is an emergency at school, I think that students should be able to contact their parents and have their cell phones on them.
Currently, Boulder High School students are allowed to use cell phones between classes. This parent spoke against the stricter policy during Tuesday night's school board meeting.
This policy that we're rolling out, I feel, is a little more punitive than it needs to be.
The school superintendent said cell phones are a distraction.
It's about a culture shift in our community and with our schools, and they need to reconnect with not only their learning but with each other in ways that are healthy and going to support their mental health. 1st
through 8th grade students here already have a bell-to-bell cell phone ban. The superintendent told Fox 31 some parents felt students should have cell phones with them during a crisis. But Rob Anderson said safety experts say that is not the case.
When we go into our secure protocol, that students need to be away, lights turned off in locked classrooms, and then if a cell phone were to ring during that time, it actually could put them in danger.
Boulder's school board president voted against a new ban.
I'm still struggling with not having a full discussion on digital media literacy.
Students not liking it either.
I think that it's pointless because, students are always going to find their way around it.
The district is not yet saying how students who break the cell phone rule will be disciplined.
And today the superintendent said they're still trying to figure out how these rules will be implemented. So there's still a lot more work to do. An update on how this new policy is going will be done in March. Reporting live in Boulder, Vicente Arenas, Fox 31.
All right.
And by March 2025, we'll know about this new ban. But here is what I would have recommended as a discipline notice. First offense would have been a warning. Second offense would be having the phone taken away until the end of class. The third time and on, the second and third one is, second time you get it back at the end of the school day, or after class. Third time is at the end of the day. By the other time, the parent just come pick it up. And back then, you were not allowed to use your phones during class time. If you do, you could be, it could teach us where to take it up. And you could be facing, your mom and dad could be paying $15 to get it back. See if I can find that video. Okay, you know what? Because if you use cell phones in school when the teacher's teaching, you're going to be unfocused. And my thing is breaking school policy. Another reason is people use them to cheat. I mean, what if it was an emergency? I mean, it could go off, and I mean, if it was an actual emergency, like in the classroom, well, here's what not to do from this teacher.
I'm Professor Deb Pagnotta, and I approve this message. The single most important rule that I have for all of my classes starting out is no cell phones. No cell phones. I want to make that very clear. I'm very serious about it. The logic of it is that cell phones interrupt. They interrupt my train of thought and they interrupt your train of thought. You need to be awake in this classroom. And when I say pathos, it means I get very emotional about it.
What if it's an emergency?
You talk to me beforehand and I will give you dispensation. So Chris, I have a question for you about pathos.
Yeah, what's your question, Professor?
So what did I just say about cell phones?
Then you have a strict policy with them?
Let me have that. And what happens when you have a cell phone in class?
I don't know.
Do you think I'm kidding?
Oh, rock.
Why is there a sneaker in your bag? And a rock?
When I say that I'm going to do something, you can trust that I will do that.
One last text? Dude. What the? Oh! Oh! My cell phone! What the?
Take the battery out. Can you hear me now? Got service now?
She's serious.
I'm not kidding.
If that were to happen in real life, that teacher would have been fired or being disciplined for it. Take it away. Give it to the child at the end of the class. Or have a parent come pick them up. Pick up the phone. No excuses. We talked about this during our Throwback Thursday during Back to School Month, and I figured, hey, it's just a bad example to set. Well, later in our Bible break, we're going to show you, we're going to put your skills to the test on how you you know when your phone's out. But let's move on here. I was at an event at Grace Community Church with 3 candidates. May Mendoza, Mike, and my very good friend Kaylin Paxson. This is all recorded on the live Facebook. So we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to play that live video because there is some points out there that one of the candidates has said. And we're also going to give you some real pointers that was being discussed in that live video. And I was listening in on what needed to be done. So we're going to take a little break here. We're back. So we'll take a little break here. We're back right after this. So stay with us. Welcome back. Normally, I don't often talk about politics on this broadcast, but I'm going to make an exception. Earlier tonight, I was at an event at Grace Community Church here in Far Bluff, where a candidate face-off between the mayor and District 4. I know one of my friends is going to be running for District 4 with only 1 vote left. That name is Kaylin Paxson. Man, she calls me the hometown hero. Go figure, right? we're not going to play the whole video, but I do want to give y'all some highlights of what I saw and what it meant to me. Because I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to go over there, I'm going to listen in, and it'd be a good segment for the broadcast. One of the candidates who's running for mayor, his name is Mike. He made some very good points, which you'll hear in just a minute. And as for May and Kaylin, well, Kaylin gave this whole amazing speech that might not involve me. But if it did involve me, I would have just stood up and said, there was somebody with the cowboy hat, and someone been like, the other person with the cowboy hat is me, and then someone pointed at me going, and that person looked at me going, who? Wait a minute. Aren't you that guy that plays at the corner? Yes, ma'am. That would have been their reaction. But the goal in mind is, this is what they talk about. They talk about the water laws, and basically all about taxes. And you know, we all got to pay taxes. We hate paying taxes, but it's what we got to do. If you don't pay your taxes, you can go to jail for tax evasion. And some very good points brought up. So all these years behind, after the pandemic, years before, and this year, Mike voted nay, while Paulette said aye. Now, if she's watching this, you know, again, we don't support me. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. I mean, December is next weekend's coming up. Election's coming up. Early voting is happening, and if you don't get out there and vote, then you got no right to bitch. So it's like this: if you don't go out there and vote, you got no right to bitch. So with that in mind, here is what Mike said, and this is very important. I want to point out the. Okay, so this is where So this is the clip to where Mike stepped in with his prompts, and. Sorry. This is where Mike stepped in with his prompts, and he talked about something very important. So it has something to do with the taxes. So let's take a look, and then we're going to break it down. Well, there was no sound, so we're actually going to break it down while the video is playing. And we actually can see, so this was something to the viewers. Okay, so let me, okay. So let's zoom in here so that we all can see, because you guys are probably scratching your heads going on, what the fuck's going on? This was the tax increase to where Paulette was mayor. So when Paulette was mayor and we had hurricanes, while she was mayor, she wanted to increase taxes. While on the other hand, Mike was like, nope, 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 nope. I don't want increasing my taxes, bitch. No offense. So this is what Michael said. Michael said nay when Paulette said aye. The 2025 budget. Paulette said aye. Michael said nay. 2022. This was 3 years ago. Now we're going into 2022. Nay for Mike. Aye for Paulette. Now I know what you guys are thinking. You don't disrespect our mayor. It's not disrespect. I mean, it's my opinion, folks. I mean, you are all entitled to your opinions about what's going on. And I get it. You know, I'm not going to badmouth our mayor for the next 4 years saying, well, she didn't do a very good job doing this, that, the third. Listen, I have a disability. I'm on guardianship. That blocks me from voting. But I do have support. I don't vote, but I got support. You may say, well, if you got support, it means you should vote, right? You're exactly right, but that isn't, look, it doesn't mean that, you know, I'm going to go out to all these candidate meetings here in the Bluff and say what I have to say. I mean, if I had something to say, I would have just done a Give Me a Break broadcast from that thing, and then we would have got to a second half with the candidates while I was listening in. Would have gone to full break. Meaning like, Joe, I'm a second. We're going to take a break. We're right back. Hold on, Joe. We're going to take a break. We're right back. Hold on, Joe. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. And then all of a sudden be like, what the fuck is going on? This is Give Me a Break. This is Give Me a Break on YouTube, to where we break down, we do real issues, real times, and my whole goal is to focus on education and helping out the community. So, the taxes, I mean, which side do you pick here? I'm with Kaylin here on what she's going to do. She wants District 4. Now, as for the mayor part, I probably support Mike for his tax thing. And, you know, a decrease in taxes, that's a good thing. And, you know, competitions, I mean, there was a good point in there. Now, if that video audio was not cut, that would have been good, the good news thrown on. But, listen, there's no sound. That was from board president Shirley Thornton, who is a member of the Florida Citizens Council. And she had it in herself to just... And there was also the videotape from the Florida Citizens Council. I do have... There's actually... Oh, I think there was... I cannot be too sure. I think there was a live video from the Florida Citizens Council. They actually had a camera up top. Nope. That was just only for what's going on here, so now it's all about the taxes, you know, and what Kaylin wants to do for her community. Let me tell you. Let me show you a picture. I'm going to show you a quick picture. I do have pictures of me with Kaylin. No, we're not together. No, she's not my girlfriend. No, she's not my wife. She has a wife. She's married. She has a husband. She's married. She's my good friend. She calls me the hometown hero. I have one. So here's some pictures of me and Kaylin. I have one. I have two. 1, 2. This was me. This was me with her back in October 2020 when we first met. And you know, I probably supported her for running for mayor. That backfired. But now she's back 4 years later running for District 4. And again, I have her support. I don't vote, but I do got support. even if they don't recognize me from this community. If y'all live in the Fly Bluff community, well, Google my name. You know you should not be Googling yourself. Well, if you know this face, or this face, zoom in here. That's me. That's me. And that's me. That's me. So, there you have it. I'm proud to be called the hometown hero of this community. And Kaylin, if you're watching, thank you. Paulette, Verisarin, Mike, I'm going to support you. I don't vote, but I'm going to probably support you. May Mendoza, you got my support. It's all equally. I'm not going to go out there and tell you who to vote for, but if that were to happen, I recommend you all vote for Kaylin Paxton with 1 vote left. We're going to take a break. Be right back. Going into the Gimme Break hotspot, Spider-Man 4 might be released. And I think there is a rumor that Sydney Sweeney is going to be the new female lead in this movie. Let's take a look.
Sweeney will be the new female lead in Spider-Man 4. It is reported that Marvel will choose a new actress to be Peter Parker's new partner. The movie will directly follow the ending of No Way Home. MJ has lost her memory of Peter Parker. Peter also chooses not to recognize them for their safety. So Peter will meet a new female character. This new character is likely to be the Black Cat played by Sydney Sweeney. In Spider-Man 4, Peter will become depressed. The side of him as Peter will gradually disappear and instead focus on the side of him as Spider-Man. In the comics, Black Cat initially was only interested in Spider-Man and had no interest in Peter Parker under the mask. And this also just avoids the awkward situation of Peter looking for a new love right after breaking up with MJ. However, there is another possibility. Peter will study at Empire State University in Spider-Man 4. He will meet MCU's Gwen here. Perhaps Peter will start a new relationship. As for Zendaya's MJ, she doesn't have many scenes in Spider-Man 4 and will only appear at the end of the movie. There are also sources revealing that Spider-Man 4 will start filming in the UK at the end of May 2025 and is expected to be released in 2026. Sydney Sweeney will be the new female lead in Spider-Man 4. It is reported that Marvel will choose a new actress to...
2 years from now? I can't wait for that. Spider-Man 4 will be released 2026, and I think a year from now that trailer will be probably done, and I just can't wait to see it. Alright, let's see. Alright, we're going to switch gears right now and focus in on the drug heroin. I think I've something about somewhere. So, we're not gonna waste any time here, but okay, let me we're gonna pop on some. We're not gonna do a rerun story. I think I do have a story that a story all about Dr. Death. It's the story of Dr. Death and his accomplices. So the question, I mean, you might have heard the story about Dr. Death. But what about his accomplices? Well, you'll probably find out to hear this story. And you can probably decide for yourself about whether you believe or disbelieve in Dr. Death. Take a look. Here's my boss.
Biological weapons have come to be known as the poor man's nuclear bomb. Countries like Iraq and Libya, even groups like Al-Qaeda can make them easily and on the cheap. So if it's easy for leaders like Saddam or bin Laden to acquire these weapons of mass destruction, what about a simple private citizen like Dr. Larry Ford, a respected gynecologist from California who secretly kept germ warfare material in his home refrigerator? What's more, he worked closely with a notorious South African known as Dr. Death. But as we learned in this joint reporting effort with the New York Times, all this might never have come to light had it not been for what happened 2 years ago in Irvine, California. It started out as a local news story.
You're watching Southern California's CBS 2 News at 11.
Police believe that Dr. Ford was involved in the attempted hit of his business partner, James Riley.
Dr. Larry Ford hires a hitman to try to kill his business partner. The hit fails, and when police come to question Dr. Ford, he commits suicide. End of story? Well, not according to this man, Peter Fitzpatrick, who says he had evidence Larry Ford did more than just try to kill his business partner. He knew firsthand that Dr. Ford had been working with potentially lethal germs, and when he saw on television the local police walking around Dr. Ford's house unprotected, he called the authorities to warn them.
When the police were entering his property, it struck me that if the cop saw a jar and opened it up and smelled it, he doesn't know what he's smelling, and it could be failed. It could be something which he would bring home to his family and release all of these dangerous germs, and all those germs would be blowing all over Southern California. I was worried.
How did he know? Back in 1986, Fitzpatrick was working as an undercover FBI informant at the South African attaché residence in Los Angeles. This was during the apartheid years. And one night there, he says he saw Dr. Ford pass a bag to a prominent South African military doctor, which the attaché told him was filled with deadly germs.
The goods were delivered.
The goods were delivered?
Yes.
What kind of germs?
Well, it was pretty specific. It was the cholera, typhoid, botulism, anthrax, and bubonic plague.
Turns out Fitzpatrick wasn't the only one warning the authorities. According to Victor Gray, the head detective on the case.
We were receiving phone calls from different people all the time who had some contact with Dr. Ford.
And they were telling you?
They asked, did you dig up his backyard? And so we asked, why would we dig up the yard?
Why? Because Dr. Ford had buried tubes filled with guns, ammunition, and volatile C4 plastic explosives, which the authorities found when they finally did an excavation of the yard. And because of the warnings by Fitzpatrick and many others, the neighborhood was evacuated. And the FBI's weapons of mass destruction team responded in full protective gear. And what they found inside the house was a huge supply of potential germ warfare agents.
They checked the refrigerator in the garage and discovered 266 vials.
266 vials of what?
Cholera, salmonella. And there were many other things in there that weren't labeled specifically what they were.
So this was very dangerous, what he was doing.
Extremely dangerous.
To his neighbor.
Yes.
And he says it may have been not only the neighbors at risk, for hidden under a false floorboard in Dr. Ford's home and in his office, police found files on dozens of women, complete with medical notes, photos, and other personal details. Among the women, Shane Gregory, who had a brief relationship with Dr. Ford in the 80s.
You had an affair, I take it.
I would say this would be an emotional affair. I had one episode of physical intimacy with him.
That's all.
That's it.
Shortly after the relationship ended, Miss Gregory came down with mysterious symptoms.
I wasn't able to work. I wasn't able to drive. I could barely walk. I saw 55 physicians between 1987 and 1991, at which time I had my first of 4 brain surgeries. And
First of 4 brain surgery?
yes.
Surgeries for what several doctors had assumed was a rare neurological disorder. But many of the women in those files had similar debilitating and unexplained ailments. And when Detective Ray looked into Shane Gregory's case, he found evidence that Dr. Ford had been stalking her.
He had told other persons that we spoke with that he talked about infecting her with something. And then we later spoke to another informant who said that, in fact, Dr. Ford personally told him that he had done these things and that she would never be the same again.
Then he says there's Tammy Tippett, who barely knew Dr. Ford, but says that she became ill after meeting him at a business lunch.
I throw up blood. I have very odd lesions all over my body. I've had sores all up and down. I lose motor skills.
Watching her move her head and react to sound was like watching myself.
Really?
We both have severe hearing amplification. Severe.
And that was the point when I started to accept that maybe this is why I was sick.
Police handed the case over to health authorities who opened an investigation. All of this, the women, the suicide, and the attempted hit, came as a shock to Patrick Riley, the target of that hit. Riley was a partner in a small biotech company with Dr. Ford.
Did you know of Larry Ford's interest in chemical and biological warfare or weapons?
Yes, but it never dawned on me that Larry was interested in finishing weapons. But he loved bugs. He loved that world.
Riley even testified at the trial of one of Dr. Ford's hired hitmen that Ford indicated he had worked for the U.S. Army, and after Ford's suicide, he found material in the office suggesting that Dr. Ford had a link to the CIA.
So he was connected one way or another with the military establishment and the intelligence establishment, apparently, of the United States government.
I always just assumed it was the Army, but when you stop and think about it, as I have since then, certainly it was intelligence.
We'd been told, starting with Mr. Riley, and then by other witnesses, that Dr. Ford had some connection to the CIA, had some connection to the Army's germ warfare projects. We took it serious.
Did you ever find out if he did?
I can't say.
Neither would the FBI or the CIA tell us. But the Irvine police did find evidence that, as that FBI informant had said, Dr. Ford was working with a biowarfare program here in South Africa called Project Coast during the white-ruled apartheid years in the 80s and early 90s.
Shortly after Dr. Ford's stockpile was discovered, U.S. intelligence contacted the South Africans, that is their seat of government here in Pretoria, and asked to speak with one of the scientists who had worked on their biological weapons program.
And that scientist confirmed to them that Larry Ford did have a connection to South Africa's now dismantled chemical and biological warfare program. What's more, back in 1987, Dr. Ford had visited with scientists from this secret military installation outside Pretoria, according to South African prosecutor Tory Pretorius.
Larry Ford wanted to sell some of his stuff to South Africa.
Sell some of his
stuff.
What stuff?
I don't know. That was never disclosed what stuff he would have. And then there was a presentation at the military installation, the Intelligence College, and Larry Ford presented certain of his knowledge and know-how.
Know-how, for example, of how to wipe out an enemy military camp by lacing a pornographic magazine with deadly bacteria.
And because the book will go from soldier to soldier, and that's the best way to spread that kind of thing. And
in other words, you would spread
anthrax, for instance, you put anthrax on the
pages
on the pages, and then
of a pornographic magazine,
and then you ensure that it comes to a military camp, and every soldier in the camp would read it, and that way everybody would get infected with the bug.
An FBI informant in the United States by name Peter Fitzpatrick told us that he had seen Larry Ford pass a satchel of biological agents at the South African trade attache's home in Southern California. Why would he do that?
If some substance were needed by the South African program that weren't readily available, obviously they would use whatever contact they have, and they can say, please acquire this substance from Larry Ford.
And Dr. Ford's contact in South Africa was none other than the notorious leader of this secret biowarfare program, Brigadier Dr. Wouter Basson, whom the press has dubbed Dr. Death. Prosecutors there brought charges against Basson for the murder of dozens of anti-apartheid activists. After Dr. Basson was arrested, South African authorities found this letter among his documents, in which Basson asks his secret funds manager in Switzerland to set up an offshore account for a Dr. Larry Ford. Wouter Basson is stationary. There is an American scientist I sometimes work with that needs to deposit money in an offshore account, Swiss bank account. His name is Dr. Larry Ford.
What year was that?
This is 1991.
That was during the time I knew him. I was with him.
You never knew anything about it?
Absolutely nothing.
Riley says he and Ford were doing business at the time with a South African company called Delta G. Work on what Dr. Ford said was an anti-balding compound. But Delta G was in reality a front, a cover for Wouter Basson's secret chemical warfare research. And sources told us that Ford's anti-balding formula is remarkably similar to an assassination poison developed here for Basson, a poison called Silatrane.
I don't know what Silatrane is, so... The material that Larry had is similar to this material you just mentioned?
We are told.
Well, it's not the kind of thing he'd ever talk to me about.
He never did?
No. It's not the kind of thing he would have talked to me about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to believe that he would be involved in that kind of a dastardly thing.
It would seem that perhaps Dr. Ford was using this project with you as a cover for the biological weapons work that he was doing. Did this never occur to you?
Never occurred to me.
Does it occur to you possibly now?
Sure.
What a strange story.
Strange as it gets.
A Los Angeles gynecologist involved with a South African who ran the chemical and biological weapon program. What the dickens is this all about?
God, that's the $64,000 question. I wish I knew.
So the question is, how did this American gynecologist with an apparent military and intelligence background, how did he get involved?
I wish I knew.
He wish he knew. But how did it happen? How did this gynecologist sneak in germ warfare? That part of the story when we return. Stay with us. Returning to our story. Africa has just been ransacked by germs and warfare by Dr. Death. Now this person which you're about to meet has agreed to sit down for his first ever interview. What did he know about all the stuff that happened? And what, if any, should this ever happen ever again, if it did? Again, Mike Wallace.
The media have labeled you Dr. Death.
I wasn't sure why they were doing that, because I knew of no earthly reason why they should do that.
Why? According to this U.S. Air Force Academy report co-authored by Professor Helen Perkett, Dr. Wouter Basson ran one of the most sophisticated, offensive chemical and biological warfare programs in history. And by offensive, you mean?
Well, limiting the black population I would consider pretty offensive.
In her report, she says Dr. Basson's scientists created anthrax, cholera, botulinum, and a variety of other pathogens. to kill or incapacitate rebel troops, anti-apartheid leaders, even ordinary citizens in the black townships.
They wanted to develop chemical and biological weapons to control the black population.
So basically, it was aimed at putting blacks out of action by one means or another.
That was one of the objectives, yes.
A recent book called Plague Wars detailed some of the methods they developed. Anthrax planted in the gum of envelopes, into the filters of cigarettes, inside chocolates, botulinum toxin hidden inside beer bottles, and salmonella germs hidden in sugar. Rarely can death have been prepared in such eclectic and obscene forms.
Do you really want me to comment on that?
Yes, I do.
Absolute rubbish. That was part of a legitimate, official, authorized research project, similar to research projects carried out all over the world. There was nothing special, there was nothing more sinister.
That is not what South African prosecutors said when they leveled charges of murder against Vodabasson 3 years ago. Witness after witness spoke of assassination poisons developed under his command, of people tortured or murdered with chemicals and germs, and prosecutors here discovered a network of spies and scientists from around the world that Dr. Basson had assembled, among them Dr. Larry Ford of California. When did you first meet Dr. Larry Ford?
I cannot remember the exact date. It was somewhere in the middle 80s when he was introduced to me as a gynecologist with a special interest in microbiology. But along the way, it became clear that he confessed or professed to having certain knowledge in the field of chemical and biological warfare.
Apparently you had enough respect for him to invite him to talk to some of your scientists.
I found him to have a reasonably in-depth knowledge. At one stage, I arranged for him to meet our scientists.
And did he acquit himself as far as the scientists were concerned?
Well, the consensus afterwards was that he had some knowledge, but that he couldn't really contribute anything in great depth to our program as such.
If that's true, then why did Dr. Basson ask his Swiss money manager to set up that offshore account for Dr. Ford? That's a letter from...
Yes.
Yourself.
As far as I can remember, it had to do with monies that needed to be paid for his AIDS project that he was busy with in South Africa.
Why into a Swiss account?
I don't know. That what was asked of me and I did it.
But that AIDS project Dr. Basson mentioned was, in fact, a cover for biological warfare research. This AIDS document makes specific mention of Dr. Larry Ford, listing 2 routine medical tasks, and then, curiously, item 3, the acquisition of relevant chemical and biological weapons literature from Dr. Ford.
I'm not aware of that document. If you can show that to me...
This is the document.
Yes.
And it does talk. It's mainly about AIDS.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden in the middle, as you can see,
it says here, the acquisition of any relevant CBW literature from Dr. Ford.
Yes.
Yes, I have no knowledge of this document.
You have no knowledge, but if the document is a legitimate document...
Nothing to do with Project Coast.
I mean, you've been so completely responsive. This is the first time that you have said, wait a minute.
Because that's not my document. How can I recognize it if it's not mine?
Fact is, that document is his. Not only was it found in Dr. Basson's possession when he was arrested, the South African prosecutor, Tory Pretorius, says it was put in evidence at the trial. In other words, conceivably his AIDS work was a cover for his biological work?
Yes, that would be used as a vehicle and as a cover for other type of activities relating to the chemical biological warfare.
And Pretorius says it wasn't only the AIDS program Dr. Basson used as a front.
Mike, this was called Delta G.
This now abandoned facility called Delta G, shown to us by an anti-apartheid activist, is where Dr. Ford supposedly worked on that hair regrowth formula. But Delta G was in fact Vodabason's chemical warfare plant, which made poisons meant to kill members of Nelson Mandela's African National Congress Party, the ANC. Dr. Ford worked with one of your project's labs, Delta G.
He discussed certain matters with scientists from the project.
He was working on a hair regrowth formula.
Larry had brought 2 or 3 formulas along that he wanted made.
Because we've been told, correct me if I'm wrong, that work related to research on Silatrane, one of the poisons that Project Coast developed to kill ANC officials, was involved in the hair regrowth work.
No. First of all, let me correct you. Silatranes were not developed to kill ANC officials, any officials, or to kill anybody.
And he says Larry Ford never worked on Silatrane. But Delta G scientists testified that not only was Silatrane used as a poison, at a state hearing in Cape Town in 1998, they admitted to having created gadgets like trick umbrellas and these screwdrivers to inject the toxin. And halfway around the world, in Irvine, California, police told us the FBI had found one of those James Bond-type umbrellas in Dr. Ford's home. Project Coast developed one of those umbrellas to shoot out the Silatrane?
Yes. That project is a bit like the 007 books, where you get all this 007 type of gadgets.
Did you know that the FBI found one of those umbrellas in Dr. Ford's house?
No, that's totally amazing and new to me, yeah.
Did you know that one of these umbrellas was found in Dr. Ford's home?
I have no knowledge, and I would doubt that. In actual fact, I would say that that is impossible.
Really? Because the FBI said that they found one of those umbrellas in Dr. Ford's home.
Then you have different FBI sources than I do. I spoke to them last week, and there was
questioned them about an umbrella?
There was no discussion with me about any umbrella.
Well, of course, it's perfectly possible that your FBI guy...
I don't know who your FBI guy was. Mine's a senior FBI guy.
Wouter Basson, notorious as Dr. Death. What would he be doing having regular discussions with senior people at the American FBI?
I don't know, that's surprising to me.
Do you think the American government knew about Wouter Basson's program?
Well, I assume that the Americans knew that the South Africans were interested in biological warfare.
And here's proof. Detailed, handwritten notes that Dr. Basson kept on his meetings with U.S. military biowarfare scientists going back to 1981. Well, we spoke with some of the people that Basson met with back in the early 80s. And they said that they knew that Dr. Basson was developing a chemical and biological weapons program. And they briefed U.S. military intelligence after every meeting. So somebody in the U.S. intelligence establishment knew.
Well, Mike, I'm not sure who knew what, number one. But I'm also not sure that our intelligence agencies had a full picture of what was being developed by Project Coast.
Did you get any help from the Americans?
No, that I can't answer. I can't answer that question.
You can't answer that question. Dr. Basson also declined to discuss what he did after Project Coast was dismantled in the mid-90s. That is when he made the first of 5 trips to Libya. What was he doing in Libya?
I think to this day we'd like to know more about what he was doing in Libya. The U.S. government was very concerned about what he was doing, if he was selling secrets from Project Coast.
And why would he want to peddle secrets from Project Coast?
Well, for one thing, to make money.
Libya has money.
True.
Libya might want biological or chemical weapons.
I can understand America and Britain's concern.
The Americans were so concerned they issued both a diplomatic warning to Pretoria and reportedly a personal one to Dr. Basson. Basson said that the CIA threatened to kill him on one occasion.
Yes, one of the doctors working with him brought the message to him that the CIA said that he should stop visiting Libya.
On Dr. Basson's 5th trip home from Tripoli, he said the Israeli Mossad made the same threat. It was his last visit to Libya. But according to U.S. intelligence documents we've obtained, he was also reaching out to Iran and Iraq. How do you control a Wouter Basson, a guy with all that knowledge?
Well, I think that's a very good question. One of the major concerns is that so much of the documentation that was thought to have been under lock and key was actually taken by Bassan and his associates.
With a view to...
We don't know.
And that is Dr. Perkins' biggest fear. That there might be more Wouter Bassans and Larry Fords out there. Scientists with not only the germs, but the expertise on how to weaponize them, and willing to sell that expertise to the highest bidder. What do you understand was really the relationship between Ford and Bassan?
I really don't know, but I think that that's one of the kinds of questions which, even if we never get an answer to, illustrates that in the future we're going to be facing some very different kinds of threats.
With weapons of mass destruction, not nuclear, but chemical and biological.
Right.
Dr. Ford, of course, is dead. He committed suicide. As for Dr. Bassan, his 2-year-long bench trial, not a jury trial, before a white apartheid-era judge ended this past spring the way that many South Africans, white and black, feared it would, when the judge declared him not guilty. Must have been a huge disappointment that he was acquitted, despite your best efforts.
Yes, true. That's true.
The prosecution is appealing the verdict. In the meantime, South Africa's Dr. Death is a free man, and he says he just wants to get on with his life. What you're saying is your conscience is absolutely clear. How do you persuade the skeptics?
I don't have to. It's no skin off my back. Judgment has been given.
You were acquitted?
Yes.
You were acquitted.
He was acquitted. Until that time, we may never know. We're going to take a break. Be right back. For those that don't know Danos, it's the seasoning that has less sodium.
This is exactly how I came up with the Dano seasoning recipe almost 20 years ago now. Bone in, skin on chicken thighs, crispy skin falling off the bone. Crispy skin and falling off the bone chicken. Every time, every week, somebody tells me that they make this once a week for their family. Check it out how I make it. Get your 4 chicken thighs, bone in, skin on. Don't wash them. Throw them down in your pan, skin side down. You open this little flap up. This recipe is right there on the bottle for you. Olive oil, rub it around. So you can see that's all we got left in the bottle. It's gonna be plenty. Sprinkle generously, turn them over, more olive oil, rub it around. Now we season the other side. You can see we still got a lot. We go into the oven, 350 degrees for 1.5 hours. All right, 1.5 hours later. Now here's my favorite part. Take the skin and get you some of that meat, set it right there in the middle, wrap it up. It's like a crunchy chicken skin taco. Now that's the yum yum. Get you some. Crispy.
Really
skin.
good. Danos has a lot of good recipes. But the fried turkey, he knows how to fry a damn turkey. Here's a clip.
Again. Alright, my friends, it's that time of year. We're going to deep fry another turkey. This is my 5th time deep frying a turkey. If you want to deep fry a turkey with one of your friends, share the love, share the video, say, hey, we need to do this together. So, every time I deep fry a turkey, I got to go back and watch the directions again on exactly how I did it. Last year, I did it absolutely perfect, so I'm going to show you guys once again how to do this from beginning to end. So pay attention to the details. So this year I actually brined my turkey. I did not inject it, so I brined it for a day. And so what I'm going to do is take your turkey and we're going to lay it down in water into your boiling pot to make sure it's totally submerged. So you're going to know that that's how much oil you need to have it totally submerged. So as we can see, we're going to need a little more. So that right there should do. So now I'm going to take my turkey out. Now here's another little tip for you. You want to make sure you cut that neck skin, because when you put this on the fryer and you pull it out of the oil, if that neck skin's down there, it's not going to let the oil release, and then you just have a big old pot of oil cooking inside your bird, and then you got to sit there and let it drip for like 5 minutes. I've done that before, so don't do that. All right, so now let's set our bird to the side. I'm going to get a bunch of paper towels, and I'm going to dry it off. So before we get our bird prepped, let's go on and get our oil heated up. So we can see where we need our oil line to. I can actually pick a spot right over here where they have the writing, and I know it's right on that third line. And so I'm gonna pour the water out. Now this part's also very important. Don't leave water down in your pot. So get all that water out, because water and oil do not mix, so when that starts to heat up, you just hear a bunch of popping because the oil's trying to get rid of the water. We're using straight peanut oil. I'll pour that in. Now another tip for you, don't do what my buddy Joey did when I was down in Miami a couple years ago. You have to put the oil in before you turn the heat on. If you turn the gas on before there's any oil in there, you're going to burn a hole in the bottom of your aluminum pot. So you must put the oil in first and then light it up. Now you're going to want to save this, because when you're done with the oil, you're going to put it back into here. We're going to get this rolling. We're going to get it up to 375. Put a lid on it. Put your thermometer down in there. All right, so now we got our bird nice and dried off. Then we're going to hit it with some oil as a binder. Then we're going with the brand new Dan-O's Primo. That's right. I know I made it for steaks, but it's phenomenal on chicken. So today we're going to try it on a deep fried turkey. I know it's going to be good. So I'm pretty sure we'll end up using this whole bottle. And I'm just going to generously coat. And you can see all the colorful flavors in there. Look at the black pepper. It's black garlic, black sesame seeds, black cumin, poppy seeds. There's nothing like this, you guys. Real black salt. So we're just going to give a heavy coating all over this bird in the little armpits. Now remember, I told you guys earlier that I'm not using an injector this time. The last couple years I've injected it with the Cajun butter. This year we brined it, so it's going to be nice and juicy. So we're just going to get this thing covered, and all that seasoning, you know, a lot of it will come off as it's cooking, but that flavor in the oil is what's going to make this. So just get it nice and covered. Flip it over. We're even going to go in the cavity just like that. Get it everywhere. A little more binder on there. Cover that bird, baby. Alright, now you need one of these, and you're also going to make sure you have one of those so you can slowly drop it in. So we're simply going to take our turkey with the legs pointing up. We're going to put it right on the hook, just like that. So now this bad boy is ready to fry, and we will drop it in slowly once we get to 375, just like that. Now let's make sure we get this coated. So we forgot to hit the record button. Well, Brad the camera guy did when we dropped it in the fryer. So I made this little illustration for you. So basically, the first thing you want to do when you drop your turkey into the fryer is, first thing, you want to cut the fire. Turn the fire off, because if there's no fire, there's no chance of it bubbling over and catching fire and everything flaming up and your house catching on fire. So you turn the flame off, drop the turkey in, and then you can turn the flame back on once you have your lid on and the bubbles are contained. Oh, and when I say drop your turkey in, slowly release your turkey. All right, so we just put our lid back on, and notice that oil is popping everywhere. Look, it's on the ground. That's 100% the reason why you cut the flame off. But now we can see that we're at like 325, but we want to be at 350. So now is the safe time to turn the fire back on. We'll get it up to 350 and we'll maintain that for about 40 to 45 minutes. All right, y'all, check it out. It's been exactly 8 minutes. It's boiling. We got it on high. We put the lid back on immediately, turned the flame back on once we got the bird in there. And it's only at 300 degrees. So just so y'all know, when you drop that in, it was at 380. When you drop it in, that temperature is going to reduce significantly. So I immediately turned the gas back on high. We're at 300, trying to build back up to that 350. That's going to be all good. All right, my friends, it's time. It's been exactly 40 minutes. It's a 12-pound bird. I don't know, you do the math. But that bad boy is ready. You can see we got some oil in these little pockets right here. I'm gonna take it over, put it in our little foil tray. Still bubbling, got the little oil in there. Here, do this. Dump that out. There we go. Now, we're gonna let that rest for about an hour, and then we're gonna cut into it. All right, my friends, we let it sit for over an hour. We got kind of distracted. We put a little butter on it, we made it look really pretty. Now it's time to cut into this thing and see what it looks like. So, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the wing. So we're just gonna hyperextend that thing right off there. Now we're gonna cut down through the leg and go down into the thigh joint. And you can kind of just roll it off, just like this. Look how tender that is. So this is so tender, you guys. I'm literally just pulling that right apart. Gonna hyperextend this other wing off, just like that. I like to keep the little drummets on there because it actually gives your chicken, your bird some stability. So we're gonna cut right there. Hold on, we're gonna do one thing. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The primo? Wow. Alright. Peel this back. Look at how juicy that is. Look, I'm literally, no knife needed. Pulling that right off there. Alright. Now it's time to go into the breast. Go right down the side of the keel bone. Down here by the wishbone. Kind of roll it off. Alright, so this was not a very big bird. I said it was 12 pounds. I think it may have been more like 10. That's why I pulled it out when I did. I was going to go 45 minutes, but then I kind of realized it wasn't that big. But I brined it, and I'm pretty sure this bird is still juicy. Even after sitting for an hour and a half. Still got the juices in there. Good bite. I'll get some of the skin. That was immediate. Punch you in the mouth flavor right there. That's insanely good. Super tender. Better than when I do the injection. This is seriously only my first bite, and I would highly recommend doing the brine before the injection. So let's get a bite of this thigh meat. Oh yeah. I'll get some of the skin. 100% winner for dinner. This is a 10 out of 10, and I'd do it again. I hope y'all enjoyed. Like I said, share this with someone you love. Yum yum, get you some. That is one of the best birds I've ever had. We'll see you next time, my friends. Keep sprinkling.
You can keep sprinkling. And that's how you safely fry turkey. And that's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Monday going to Tuesday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Wednesday. For all of us here at YouTube and Give Me a Break, stop bullying, speak up. Concentration, not strength. No jaywalking. And remember, early voting is this week. Get out there and vote. I'm not telling you to vote for whoever you vote for. That person's got your vote. I'll see you when I see you. Have a good night.